Well, welcome to our vlog on a vlog. Kevin, it's great to be with you. It's getting to be almost routine now for us to do this. This was a thing that we imagined just a matter of a couple of months ago. That since
hmm
everyone loves vlogs, that's what you would typically do if you're going to YouTube. You'll see a long form vlog, somebody doing what we're doing here, just chatting away with people on various subjects. We're going to cover items in the news today. And then there's, of course, the blog, which is what made Facebook and X popular with pictures and posts and a little copy and somebody presenting their point of view. We decided we would blend them together, and we are calling it the vlog on a blog. I don't recall seeing Wookie do the introduction to this show. Was that, did I miss Wookie and we have the wrong intro?
Maybe.
I think
there,
we, I think,
maybe.
I think
Kara,
we,
Kara noticed. She piped up and she noticed.
She did. We have a special intro to this. Maybe we can play it as the outro of the show, or maybe even play it during the show as a quick comic break, because Wookie does a fine job of introducing this. The first image there is of Orange Man. I call him the Copper Con. He is the one that is described at great length in the book of Ezekiel, which is not a prophetic book of God, but instead the autobiography of Satan. Something I prove. If you don't agree, you can read the last two volumes of the series called Babel. It's free at YAHOWAH.com. Even Wookie's going over there and saying, "Oh, there's something wrong with that man." He just said, he just announced today something that I don't even think Satan would be so egotistical to say. I don't need international law. I don't need anybody's approval. I'm only limited by my mind. Only my mind can stop me. And he went on and on. I mean, this was just a discussion with the New York Times, I believe. And he just
hmm
laid it all out and said, the world is me, myself, and I. I don't really give a crap about anybody else. And I'll do whatever I want to do. If I want to invade Greenland, I'll invade Greenland. If I want to kill some Ruskies with some tomahawks, well, we'll do that. If I want to invade a neighboring country like Venezuela and steal their oil and then kidnap the head of state, well, why not? I'll do that too. There's
Right.
nothing I can't do. If I want to make resorts in Gaza, well, we'll do that. It's if I don't want the Epstein files released, we'll make a joke out of it. We'll release 1% of them and see if that appeases the people. The guy is just absolutely, well, he's lost it. And the reason we're starting with this one is that Kevin, I bet it's been now, a year ago, a little over a year ago now. It'd be a year ago in November of last year that I came to the conclusion that you're looking at the person that Christians view as the Antichrist. And it's only somebody of that ilk that would make this kind of a statement, that would present himself as King of Kings. This isn't just, I'm dictator and der Fuhrer of the United States. This is, I can do whatever I damn well please. And
The world is
military
mine. Yeah.
The world is mine. The U.S. military is my tool to use to achieve whatever I want, because in the military, they don't get a choice. They have to obey what I order them to do. That's why ICE has now become his own personal police department, very much like the SS, not before the SS, actually, the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. So this is a realization, as I had analyzed from the prophets, and they're exceedingly clear on this issue, that it is at this time, this very moment in time, that an American president, they give some 70 different attributes of the country that is going to spawn this man, and it's clearly the United States, will be this sufficiently sexually perverted, egomaniacal, a warmonger, and that he will be so out of control that he will bring down the world, and that he is the man that is actually possessed not just by a demon, but this is the corporeal manifestation of Satan himself. And I don't think there has been anyone since the Caesars who would have made this kind of a statement. Hitler didn't make it. Mao Zedong didn't make it. Stalin didn't make it. This you have to go all the way back to the Caesars to find a man this egomaniacal.
And with the kind of reach that he has, because Stalin was in Russia, I mean, so he wasn't like reaching out into Britain or the United States or South America or anywhere, I mean, militarily anyway.
Well, you wouldn't say that if you're. Well, you wouldn't say that if you're living in Romania or East Germany,
sure,
or Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia or any of those nations, but he did limit his carnage to his own people and neighboring countries.
Yeah, but right? the Caesars thought they had the world was theirs. I mean, anything we decree anywhere in the world, and then to like you said, to declare themselves gods. I mean, we're one step away. We know when it's going to happen. We know where he shows up and does that. So,
yeah, Hitler wanted to be the lead Aryan. He really didn't want to be king of the world. He just wanted Aryans to rule the world. So he's close to this kind of maniacal. There's so many traits in common though with Adolf Hitler and with Donald Trump. He's clearly pursuing what I would call the Fourth Reich, as Hitler pursued the Third Reich. It's always convoluted as to which Reichs he's talking about, but it's clearly, in my view, that the holy, it's the Roman Catholic, Imperial Rome is the First Reich. And he is embodying their symbols for everything from the Ark of Trump that he wants to put in the Capitol to now the rostrum that he likes to stand behind is the Aquila, the eagle of Rome. And he speaks very much like a Roman emperor, like, okay, there's a Senate, but they don't really interest me very much. And so it's very clear. And he has his Goebbels. And Stephen Miller, he has his brown shirts, personal military, which is now ICE. He has his virtually everything that he needs in terms of also elbow room, is it what Hitler called it? We need a little elbow room, so we're going to go over here and we'll take Greenland, and we'll take Venezuela.
Right,
yeah, maybe we'll take Cuba. We'll take Panama.
Cuba's next.
We'll make Canada our hat. Why not? And so it's the Lebensraum, I think, is what Hitler called it, but it was elbow room. It's very similar to the path that he is taking, and he's going to lead the world to world war. It's just time the toys are much more lethal. So rather than 55 million people dying, it's going to be like 5.5 billion people or more that are going to die. But that is what you're up against here. If you don't realize it, you think I'm being over the top, then, well, why don't we talk here in about another 2 or 3 years, and you tell me what you think at that point.
6 months. 6 months.
Well, the way it's going, it could be 6 months. And clearly, he is as sexually perverted as was Hitler as well. So anyway, I will tell you that the bottom line is, if we don't stand up against him, and if enough people don't stand up against him, and it can't be just all progressives and Democrats, because they don't have any credibility anymore. Nobody wants to rally around them. They became too extreme the other way. But it's got to be people like ourselves who are fundamentally conservatives, who are still value driven, who believe in evidence and reason, who have studied history, and have a strong voice, and as advocates of free enterprise and freedom of speech and of all things just and moral, say, no, this man must be stopped. If you do not stop him, then you're going to endure far worse than Europe endured under Hitler.
Yeah, the only thing I can add is I'm surprised that you remember the Hitler Youth programs and everything. I thought that he was going to try to fold Turning Point USA into a Hitler Youth style program with the college outreach and everything that they were attempting to do with that. I mean, because they're talking about how TPUSA has turned into this massive Christian recruiting organization, after what happened to Charlie Kirk, that I really expected them maybe when the weather warms up and they get back out on college campuses, that they'll start really pushing that a Hitler Youth style agenda to start with the younger minds.
I think you're onto something, but just missed it ever so slightly. And when Charlie Kirk was around, Charlie Kirk was an influencer for Christianity and for MAGA. The reason I was disgusted by him and his life and thought he was counterproductive is he was advocating for this man who is a known rapist and pedophile and egomaniacal thief. And so to be advocating for him, he always hawking MAGA hats and Trump. So he created an organization that was specifically founded to be a Hitler youth camp, but for Trump. That was his agenda, and his widow doesn't seem to be any different. I mean, his widow brought Trump and Goebbels, Miller, and the anti-Semite of the year, Carlson Tucker, to speak at the funeral. You can't tell me that they aren't actually doing that this is a recruitment arm for Trump youth, because I think it is. And the difference here is, though, that we don't have much time. Hitler didn't have a lot of time either, but Hitler had more time than Trump's going to have. It's all going to be over in 7.5 years. So he doesn't have time really to raise a youth militia beneath him. But he has got lots of people that are rallying to his cause. Nick Fuentes would be a great example with the M-cells and the gophers and the gropers and the like. In fact, he's even now to the point where he says, that Candace Owens and Carlson Tucker are way over the top. And when a white supremacist, Nazi-loving anti-Semite says you're over the top, you probably are.
Yeah.
What do we have next on the hit parade there? Oh, yeah, this is my new pet peeve. When we started in social media, it was a year ago at this time. Prior to that time, I had never posted a single word in social media. But I began at YAHOWAH's instructions. I have made a habit over the last 24 years. If he says we're going to do this, or I want you to do that, I say, okay, sir. Happy to comply.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to lead, but we'll do the best we can. And it always turns out interesting and well. And so he asked me to go into social media, and that's what we've been doing. So here, the first ever blog on a blog. So that's fairly an interesting variation of this. The reason I'm holding this up is that this is a man dressed in black. He's obviously being depicted as a Muslim. It's got radical crossed off. Because what he is doing is actually acting as a traditional good Muslim by the Quran's definition. The Quran is very clear in the 8th chapter. In fact, every one of the surahs that was delivered in Yathrib, today's Medina, which was a place where genocide was perpetrated against Jews. All the Jews in Yathrib, there were some 30,000 of them when Muhammad came in with a handful of followers. He robbed them all, raped, enslaved, or murdered all of them. It was apartheid and then total genocide. And that's just the history. It's undeniable. You can read the Hadith, you can read the Quran. Allah cops a plea and says, yep, we did it. We terrorized him. We killed him. I helped you kill him. In fact, it was me who really killed him. And so it is what it is. Islam, the first official decree that starts the Islamic era, was not in Kaabaville, which is actually Petra, not Mecca. And that pledge was, we pledged to wage war against all mankind. And that's year one of the Islamic era. This is not disputable. It is absolute fact. And Islam since that time has been an indiscriminate killing machine. That is also a fact. The first 100 years of Islam, somewhere between 150 and 250 million people were enslaved, raped, plundered, and murdered. It was over 1/3 of the Earth's population at the time. And this is a fact of history. And so I have this propensity to speak honestly about the religion because I know how horrendous it has been and how badly the Quran is written and how vicious Muslims have been. October 7th is a great example. 9/11 is another example of this. And so I know more about this religion than anybody alive. And that is because I have written now 4,200 pages of analysis. Here is, this would be volume 3 of 5. They're all 825 pages long. And in each of these volumes, what I do is I'm the first ever to reorder the Quran chronologically and set it into the context of Muhammad's life using the earliest and most credible hadith sources, particularly Ishaq and Tabari, such that the Quran can be understood. Now it has context, now it has chronology, and the two sources are brought together as one. And there really is no difference between hadith and Quran in that exactly the same people said it, recited it initially, and the same people passed it on mouth to ear over the first century in the same place. The exact same people did them, and it is the same cast of characters. There is really no difference between the two. Muslim might complain that there are, but Islam is not a religion, can't even be practiced as a religion without the hadith, and the Quran cannot be understood without the hadith, and to say anything else is to lie, is to be ignorant of these things. So after doing this and having presented 5 translations of the Quran, including my own, and setting into the context of the hadith and sunnah, the oldest credible sources, I have come to present Islam as it is, exactly who Muhammad was, how he conceived Allah, who Allah is, and what their agenda is. And it
Allah
is
who, Allah he, Allah.
Yeah, Allah,
Which one?
Allah, Allah he, Allah who. Yeah, there's 3 different names for Allah in the Quran that are for him and for her, which is really means in Arabic. That's why Allahu Akbar. That's the way it's presented throughout the Quran. It's Allah, Allahi, Allahu, and then of course there's Ar-Rahman and then Ar-Rahim, which are the Hebrew names that were used so that the rabbis didn't have to say Yahweh's name in Yemen, and it was in Yemen that they picked up that the initial poetry of the Quran comes from these Jewish converts, or Arab converts to Judaism in Yemen, and Ar-Rahim and is just the name they use to describe their God. And there's entire chapters of the Quran to Ar-Rahman, for example. And again, it's the name, and it's celebrated as the name of God. And so there's about 6 or 7, 8 names for God in the Quran. Allah is not the Arabic word for God. It is one of the names of the Quranic God. And so I've come to know this. I know it better than anybody. And yet and it's deadly. And what it's doing is exceedingly caustic. And it's the worst victims of Islam are Muslims. Muslims kill more Muslims than they do non-Muslims. And so I try to educate people about Islam because I know it better than anybody else alive. Having written these books, I wrote Prophet of Doom 23 years ago. I met with Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, Alaska Martyrs Brigade 24 years ago. Probably the only person that's met with those organizations and survived the experience. And in that process, I learned a lot. And I have shared it openly. I've done 10,000 radio interviews on this subject in my own name. I've received thousands of death threats. I know this subject like the back of my hand. And yet when I share the truth about Islam now on Facebook, there's independent fact checkers that say it's not true. And Facebook gives you no opportunity to plead your case or to debate them or to prove otherwise. And it has become obnoxious at Facebook. Facebook has absolutely lost its way. It has gone back to, it is far worse than it was this time last year when Mark Zuckerberg says, I'm firing the thought police. Well, he might have fired his own thought police, but he engaged a third-party cadre of fact police, and they are absolutely wrong, and they're destroying Facebook. And I don't know what it's going to take to get Facebook's attention, but if they don't get their act together and resolve this problem, it's going to be nothing but a little gossip corner, and they're going to have little women talking to old women because they can't attract anybody young, just gossiping among themselves, because the truth is not going to be told here. And it's a real shame, because Islam has not changed in 14 centuries. And if you don't tell the truth about it, it's very much like Donald Trump. If you don't confront him with the truth, then bad things are going to happen. The same thing is true here.
Yeah, I think the most poignant part about this is the radical. Forever, even back in George Bush time, it was, we can work with Muslims, just not radical Islam. It's always been war against terrorism and radical, and the whole, it's just Islam.
Yeah,
people.
The Quran is really straightforward. The Quran defines a Muslim as somebody who engages in jihad. And Allah says there's only two types of Muslims: a Muslim who has died killing for me, and a Muslim who will die killing for me. That's directly from Allah. And since Allah defines what a Quran is in the Quran, you don't have your own opportunity to say, well, I want a different definition. That is the definition of a Muslim. A Muslim is a jihadist. All good Muslims are jihadists. And then Allah says, if you're not willing to fight jihad for me, if you're not willing to go out and kill people for me, you cease to be a Muslim. And then his orders are to the good Muslims, who are the jihadists: you must kill that peaceful Muslim so that I can torture them forever in hell. So that is the definition of Islam. That's the definition of a Muslim. I mean, Allah makes it. It's irrefutable in the Quran. I don't care what your thought police want to claim otherwise. Those are the facts, and the facts are not in dispute in this case. The other thing that's interesting is, if you look at this, I can criticize that Christian cross there and say, there was never a Jesus, and I prove it. And I've written 5 books to prove that Jesus never existed, and that the Christian New Testament is absolute rubbish, that it really is conceived by Paul, and that Paul admitted he was demon possessed, and it's obvious. And I can criticize Judaism, which I do. I've written 3 books. In fact, if you don't know the truth, all 35 books actually criticize Judaism. So I use their words against them, and I can prove that Judaism is the single greatest impediment to the Jewish people. I routinely I accuse Marxists. You see that sign on the far left. I'm an expert in the subject. I have been around the world in 170 countries. I know this world. I spent a lot of time in the Soviet Union. It was the Soviet Union, and Red China, when, in fact, it was the first Westerner allowed into Red China. I built factories in China in the first enterprise zones. I know enterprise. I've taken 2 companies public. I know this subject. I know that fascism, for example, and socialism are exactly the same beast, just different names for the same beast. And I know why communism and collectivism doesn't work. And I speak out very strongly about progressive politics and Marxism and socialism and communism. I can do that on Facebook. I can criticize Christianity. And I've got all the little Christians. They just want to call me the devil for doing it.
Right.
Pretty amazing. You tell people the truth and you try to save them from a lie, and you're the devil. It doesn't take much to mock Judaism. All you have to do is play one of their own videos, and it's pretty obvious that they're lost in space. And so all of these things you can talk about, but guess what? You can't talk about one of them: Islam. And
the one
you
holding
can't
the
talk
knife.
about Islam, somebody is a complete and utter hypocrite. Mr. Zuckerberg, get your act together. You have lost control of Facebook.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Stop it. Fix it. Don't let Facebook become X. X is a swamp.
Absolutely.
You're a better man than that. Oh, this is exactly as I had predicted. Trump is lashing out of the world, and you don't see Trump's picture there, but you can't understand this picture unless you understand Trump. What happened is that Saudi Arabia, MBS, who is a psychopath, and what he announced is that no Israeli, no Jews will be ever allowed into Saudi Arabia. So there's no normalization here. No Jews will ever be allowed into Saudi Arabia. He is doubling down. Now, the fact of the matter is, he happens to be Jewish. The entire royal family of Saudi Arabia is Jewish, as is the royal family of Jordan and a number of other Islamic countries. They are Jewish. Muhammad was ethnically Jewish. But a lot of self-loathing Jews. All you have to do today is look as far as the senator was in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders, a self-loathing Jew. Lots of them. Soros is a self-loathing Jew. He is in a very interesting position. He is quasi-BRICS. What I mean by quasi-BRICS is that he is now structuring his capital holdings apart from dollars in gold and silver and other commodities. He is now selling oil to his largest customer in yuan, bypassing the dollar. And he has representatives that go to all the BRICS meetings, and he takes, we just lost the feed there, Rich.
Kevin's feed.
Yeah. He goes to all of the BRICS meetings and talks regularly with the Indians, the Russians, as well as the Chinese. And they have decided that they're moving away from the petrodollar. This is the reason that Trump invaded Venezuela. He would not have invaded Venezuela had it not been for the trying to salvage the petrodollar. It's not going to work for him, but that is the reason he did so. He's petrified now. It's the reason he is threatening India. It's the reason why the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, is that they're just absolutely petrified of losing the petrodollar, because the petrodollar is the only reason the U.S. economy isn't completely bankrupt. $38 trillion of debt is so far beyond the pale. It could not be paid back. It can't be. The debt can't be serviced. We can't sell the T-bills. No one wants to buy them. Everyone is shorting T-bills, and so the only way that the American president can create the illusion that the United States isn't bankrupt is to attack anyone that goes off the petrodollar. That's why we didn't take Muammar Gaddafi and kill him because we didn't like his jokes. We killed him because he was replacing the dollar as the exchange of trade in Africa with a gold-backed currency. And we didn't bomb Nigeria because we don't like the Muslims that are killing Christians there. We bombed them because Nigeria came out and said, we're going to sell oil and currencies other than dollars. We did the same thing with Iraq. It is what we do. It's why we sanctioned Venezuela and then ultimately invaded Venezuela, is because they were selling oil in currencies other than dollars. And so the only thing that keeps the illusion going right now is Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is playing Trump like a fiddle. First, they bribed him with billions of dollars, and then they managed to compromise him. And between those two things, they control him. And now they're dangling this last vestige of hope of the petrodollar, such that when they say, listen, we now have replaced SWIFT. We don't need to ever trade in dollars again. Our largest customers are now buying in their own currencies. We have gold-backed reserves. We've shorted the T-bills. We don't need you anymore. And what he got on his last visit, by the pretense of, we'll play along with you, is he got a commitment, like Qatar did, that if there's any fighting, that the U.S. will defend Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Americans will die fighting to save Saudi Arabia. We've already done that. That's what Desert Storm was all about. They won't die fighting for Israel, but they will die fighting for Saudi Arabia. They got that. They got Elon Musk to advance, and NVIDIA to advance huge commitments on artificial intelligence, because Islam robs people of intelligence, so they need that. And they got access to nuclear technology because we agreed to give that to them. And they received another $100 billion worth of U.S. weapons. So there you go. And who's their enemy? Israel. So this is what we have done, and what MBS is now scheming. which has been obvious for a long time. You wanted me to continue for a few more months on the petrodollar, Donald? Okay, this is what it's going to cost. I want Israel. Silver platter. I get an Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel, and it's mine. I get to control the Temple Mount. I get to administer it. It's mine. You can say whatever you want in terms of promises of protection and sovereignty, two peoples living in harmony next to each other. We know it's not true, and we know that you will do nothing, and it'll make Israel vulnerable, and I'll get all of the credit for being the guy that set up Israel's demise. That's what we're going to do. That's the game. That's what we're going to play, and that's what's going to happen, and it's going to happen likely in the next 6 months. So don't be surprised that that psychopath right there is going to play Netanyahu, who's an easy guy to play. I mean, when the Muslims in Gaza, who have a collective IQ of sub 60, managed to taunt Israel into destroying Gaza, which was the entire purpose of Alaska Flood on October 7th. It wasn't to invade and hold Israel. It wasn't to conquer Israel. It was to piss off Israel to the extent that they would invade and destroy Gaza and kill lots of Muslims in Gaza, because they had already set up all of the apparatus around the world. The Qataris had funded it, such that even before they invaded, they were screaming genocide and apartheid and colonization and all sorts of untruths, such that Israel's reputation would be destroyed around the world. Then you show the pictures of Gaza in ruins and little Muslims dead, and it worked like a charm. Israel got played. The Gaza destruction brought the country to the point where it only has one supporter now worldwide, and that supporter happens to be the Antichrist. Israel's now a vassal of Donald J. Trump, and he's going to sell his vassal to that man right there, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS of Saudi Arabia. That is your future, Israel, so I thought you'd know it. I've been saying it now for over a year, and it's impossible to get Israelis to listen. They think that Netanyahu is a great leader. They think that Trump is the second coming of Cyrus. And he is in the sense of, I'm king of kings, but that's the extent of it. You disappeared there for a little while. You're trying to get the Facebook page to go on down to the next post.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm back on.
I can hear you. We can hear you just fine.
Yeah. I had muted myself for a second.
All right, here we go. Oh, you can play that one. That one's kind of nice. My wife produced this a couple of days ago. This happens to be Dode. To introduce him, you see that Leah Winn at the top. That's my lovely wife. She does all of these videos. This handsome fellow in this video, he is the king of kings. This is the real McCoy. His name is Dode David. According to YAHOWAH, and he ought to know since he is God, that is his son. He is the Messiah. He is the former and returning king. He is the man who actually had the courage and the character to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Makurim in 33 CE. He volunteered in his second of 3 lives to be crucified. So this idea that Jesus was crucified is total nonsense. It's nothing but a crude counterfeit of this man. This is the man who was crucified in 33 CE to fulfill Passover. He then, his nephesh soul went into Sheol to carry our guilt away on Matzah. So this man went into hell for us. This man allowed Rome to crucify him to fulfill Passover. This is the man that opened the door to life and to heaven so that we could be part of God's family. This is the greatest man in the history of the world. His name is Dode. It's presented as David. His name actually means beloved. And according to God, YAHOWAH, who writes extensively of him, God says that he is the Messiah, that he is the Son of God, that he is the chosen one, that he is the exemplar of the covenant, and he is the one who made the benefits of the covenant possible, that he is that sacrificial lamb. So you can go ahead and play this. It's an extraordinary piece.
Let's talk about love, like you and me all night, and let's talk about love, and feeling alright, and let's talk about love. Let's talk about love, like you and me.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the reason you have to get the feedback, Mike. The reason that it says kabood at the beginning is a little bit of an inside joke. Do you know what the inside joke is there, Kevin?
Oh, I do. I was there for that episode. Yeah, second Samuel 6. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 Samuel 6. Issue was that, Michal, who was Dode's wife, first wife from Shaul, King Saul, was having a conniption fit. She thought she was better than everybody else. She thought that Dode was beneath her status. She was royalty, and she thought that Dode was making claims that he couldn't fulfill. That when he claimed to be the Son of God, when he claimed to be the Messiah, when he claimed to be Israel's savior, and all of these kinds of things, and that he would come back and be the king of the universe with YAHOWAH. In fact, YAHOWAH calls him Elyon, which means Almighty God. So YAHOWAH has a very high estimation of Dode. She trashed him, and she trashed him at a point where Dode was celebrating. This man was celebrating a man named Obed-Edom, who is this person that the prophet Yeshaya speaks of in the 63rd chapter, is the man from Edom that's going to save many. Well, Obed-Edom was bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem on YAHOWAH's instructions. And because God had arranged it for Dode, all Dode had to do now is celebrate. So he knew that it was his job, and it will be his job when he returns on Yom Kippurim in 2033, year 6,000 year old. That's October 2nd, 6:22 p.m. at sunset is when he's returning with YAHOWAH. He knew that it would be his responsibility at that point to anoint the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, with the bull's blood and with the blood of the goat. And so he put on, for this occasion, the medallion, the ephod of the high priest. But he didn't wear anything else.
Right.
And so he was dancing and having a great time. And so his
like
wife said,
looking.
"Oh, you've completely embarrassed yourself. You think you're kabood. You think you're something special, but all you did was embarrass yourself, even in front of your concubines." And so Dode had the retort of all times. Well, speaking of those concubines, we'll see if they think I'm kabood here in a moment.
Right.
So kabood means heavy, significant, big. So it was one of the great comebacks of all time. It's right there in 2 Samuel 6 if you want to read it. And the reason he was naked from the waist down wasn't to show off or anything. It's because once he anoints that mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant upon his return on Yom Kippurim, we head back to Eden on Sukkah 5 days later. And we have this opportunity to live in the earth restored to the conditions experienced in Eden, because God's going to restore the entire earth once he gets rid of the religious and political malcontents. And what was the dress code in Eden?
Just a smile.
No dress code.
Yeah, wearing a smile, man, exposed. So anyway, that's the story, and that's why he is presented there as kabod. My wife is very good on inside jokes, but you got to know the story. So I thought I would explain it. But that guy is the greatest man who ever lived. The reason that the moon is full moon behind him is that if you look in the first chapter of Bereshit, Genesis, and God's telling the creation account, there was nothing created on the fourth day. There are two luminaries, a greater and lesser luminary. With the lesser luminary reflecting the greater luminary's light during this time of darkness, and that they both serve as signs of the Moedim, which are the 7 annual meetings to meet with YAHOWAH, Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, which this man fulfilled in 33 CE. Shabu and Teruah, which this man here fulfills, and coming up in this next year, and then in 2033, and then we both contribute to Yom Kippurim and Sukkah in 2033, and so that is why you see the moon behind the king, who is returning with his seat of honor, as brilliant as the sun in God's presence from YAHOWAH's point of view. And YAHOWAH ought to know. So if you want to believe that your Jesus is the Messiah and the King of Kings and the Savior and your Lord and all those kinds, you can believe whatever you want to about him, but God made it very clear that that's not true. And so if your choice is, you can believe Paul, who lied to you, or you can believe YAHOWAH, who told you the truth. And the truth is, that's the Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is our Savior, and he is the returning King. in his name means beloved, and it is Dode.
Yeah, and the moon's got his back in that one.
The moon's got his back. The moon will always have his back.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of back to back,
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, and I'm getting a lot of flack on Facebook for making the comparison between these two men and equating ICE to the brown shirts of Adolf Hitler, and they are really exceedingly similar, and equating the Fourth Reich to the Third Reich and the Der Fuhrer's attitudes together. And the fact of the matter is there weren't enough people in Germany in the 1920s that recognized that that man was a racist. He was an egomaniacal, warmongering, sexually perverted piece of crap with a gift of gab.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the 2020s, there aren't enough people, particularly those who are not part of the natural opposition, which we are not, because we are not liberals, who recognize that that man on the left is an egomaniacal, sexually perverted thug who is a warmonger, and that all he has is a gift of gab, and his gab is far worse than Hitler's. If you compare Hitler's speeches and Donald Trump's speeches, Hitler's are worse. He's less controlled, more egomaniacal, and more dangerous. So it's going to turn out much worse over these next 7 years because of the man on the left and the fact that not enough people made the connection with the man on the right.
Yeah, the power structure is completely different as well because Germany was rebuilding through their time period. The United States already has this massive war machine and economic control throughout the world that they can do a lot more damage.
Yeah, the difference is that America is failing. Germany was rebuilding. America is failing. They're both, one was going like this, and the other one's going like this. In the case of America, it's total desperation.
Sure.
All of this stuff that Trump is doing and pushing every button in the world is because America's done. Economically, we're toast. We started a trade war with China that there's a zero possibility of winning. We could not win a kinetic war with Russia. Now, I understand we have some nifty weapons. I guess we used a microwave weapon against the Venezuelans and caused quite some havoc with that. And so the U.S. has some nifty weapons that seem to work really well against third world countries. But we lost. We lost to the Houthis. Mm-hmm. We lost to the Taliban. We lost to the Viet Cong. America ain't what she used to be. So she's in rapid decline, and Trump, his ego can't handle it, and he thinks that he can't fail. He said the only thing can stop him is his own mind, and he is of the mindset that he is going to achieve what Hitler failed to achieve: world domination. That is the story of the Antichrist, is it not? And
yeah,
Trump is going to try to achieve it. Oh, what a sad statement this is. So, if I get out of my car and I get taken to a concentration camp, which is where they're taking all of these people. So, if I get out of my car, when they order me to get out of my car, I get taken to a concentration camp, regardless of my citizenship. People with passports in their wallets so that they can prove they're U.S. citizen. Doesn't matter. If I get out of my car, I get tied up and beaten up and taken to a concentration camp, regardless of my citizenship. But if I don't get out of my car, I get shot in the head. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, that is where we are. Now, I will tell you, just so that we're clear, if I witnessed somebody that was so out of control, two people, one trying to open my car door and reaching inside to grab me to pull me out of my car, while another one pulls a gun and points it at my head and starts saying shitty things to me, and I'm in a car. Do you think I'm going to wait and say, oh, let's talk this through, fellas? Oh, sure, right. I'll get out of the car while you're holding a gun to my head when I did nothing. Or are you going to gun it? And I don't think she did. I think she turned the wheels to miss him. In fact, I'm positive she did that. But in the case of me, you pull a gun to my head and you're that out of control so that I know I cannot trust you. And I'm in a car, I'm going to run you over. You need to know that. That is the right answer virtually 100% of the time. These goons do not have the right to go up to strangers, break into their cars, give them orders, and expect to be followed, or I shoot your brains out. If you do not oppose that, if you don't have the courage to stand up against that, then you've already lost. Then Trump's reign of terror prevailed.
It's interesting the amount of policing force that ICE would have in that situation, because something like this very rarely happens in your average patrol officer stop. You know, it happens. They get ran by cars, shootings happen and things, but there's very, very,
very seldom. The reason it happens very seldom is because they realized that tactic was stupid. And so you can listen to any cop talk about this issue, and they said everything that ICE did says that they were improperly trained and what they did was ridiculous. A cop will never stand in front of the car now. Your body is not designed to stop a car. Don't do that. That's stupid. Okay? You do not pull your gun on somebody that is driving a car, particularly when they haven't even pulled forward yet. The rules for shooting somebody in a car would mean that you're in a position where you've checked out the background. There's no chance you're going to kill an innocent person. And if you don't stop that driver is going to run through a crowd. Otherwise, you've got no option to do this. What they did, there was no probable cause for that guy to grab the car door and tell her to get out. There's no probable cause there. There's no probable cause and no reason for him to pull his gun on them or stand at the angle that he did for that car. That is just flat out wrong. And so when your belligerence and your lack of training and you're given a gun puts you in that position and puts her in that position, there's something really sick about your country. And then your president, your vice president, your the head of the Department of Justice all condemns the woman that was killed and exonerates the man that's operated so egregiously. It's one of the reasons why I've just given up on X. I just think that Elon Musk is defending this, and it's that you've lost your conscience. You're out of your mind. And I know MAGAs are defensive of their ICE, but so we're all Nazi Germans.
Yeah, YAHOWAH doesn't know either of these people, so I'm okay to not worry about what they're doing as well. I think I wrote the other day, it's when Dumb and Dumber meet and dumbest wins, because I'm not putting myself in the situation of either the cop, the ICE guy, or I'm not putting myself in the situation of the woman, to whatever she was doing at the time.
We're gonna differ. We're gonna differ there. First of all, I don't go out and deliberately agitate. I think that the way that people are on the left, the way they publicly protest, I think is not conducive to any proper solution. And I don't like the whole idea of public demonstrations. I think the idea of protesting in the streets is asinine. And I don't care what side does it, right or left or religious or political. I just think it's completely inappropriate. So in that regard, we would agree. But I do agree that it is essential for Americans to protest ICE. ICE is a horrible blight on this country, and what they're doing is despicable, and they are belligerent. Listen, I have spoken out against overly aggressive police now for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I began to speak about the over aggressiveness of police and the dishonesty of police now for 20 plus years.
And the legal system, that guy you helped out there in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, I've studied it. I know it. I know the statistics on it. And the fact is that judges and district attorneys and the like lie on behalf of the cops, and collectively they cannot be trusted. We do not have a justice department in this country in that regard, and so I don't like the system the way it has evolved. I don't like the attitude of cops, and I don't like the belligerence of it. And these guys are the worst of the worst. These guys are so far worse than the worst of cops. This is a group of absolute belligerents, and they're actually pandering to racists and to boys that are just thrilled to be able to run around with their gun and their badge and boss people around and shoot at people and beat people up. This is what they got, and this is how they filled their ranks, and it's abysmal. So I despise ICE with every fiber of my body. And I despise Trump for imposing them on America. And now I've moved out of the country, so because I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't stand the stench of it anymore. So I only oppose it because it's the right thing to do. You know, you can't be a moral person of character if you do not oppose evil. So to that degree, I admire somebody who will oppose it. I think they were opposing it the wrong way, but they most certainly didn't deserve to die as a result of that. Absolutely. Or have the president of the United States besmirch their reputation, which he did. Or the closest ever come to actually destroying a TV is when I heard what Vance said. It made me want to puke. Eyeliner boy has a real serious problem.
Yeah. And it's not ICE's mission either. The U.S. Marshal Service does exactly the same thing. Fugitive, apprehension, and you don't see this crap out of the U.S. Marshal Service.
No,
they're a different level.
They know they're trained. They do a job, and they have a job to do. You know, I've been served warrants to appear as a witness, and it's most of the time it's served by U.S. Marshals, and I go up and talk with them because I love the discipline of their dialogue. You know, they've been trained on what to say and how to say it. And they're really an interesting lot, you know, really professional. So I respect them for that. But these guys, they're goons. They're thugs, they're goons. And Ross is among the worst of them. It's be interesting to see, though, whether or not he will be indicted for murder. It's a tough call for Minnesota. You know, when Chaffin killed George Floyd, of course, they immediately indicted him, and they really didn't much have a case then, in the sense that he was convicted inappropriately, I think. I mean, I think that George Floyd led to his own death with the amphetamines and the fentanyl and the fact he was also out with COVID and all of those things, with a counterfeit bill passing a counterfeit bill in the store when he has been a cocaine addict and cocaine seller and drug literally distributor in his neighborhood. He badly injured a pregnant woman by pistol whipping her. I mean, with a litany of prior arrests and convictions, really bad man. And he was trying to escape. The full evidence is he was literally trying to escape. And when you're on these kinds of drugs, you are aggressive. And so Chaffin was trying to restrain him. Now, I think that Chaffin becoming out of the military went too far. Clearly, he went too far, too long in trying to restrain the larger man. But the penalty for that should not have been what he received. Now, whether or not they're going to take Ross, who we now have all sorts of video evidence that shows that he committed an act of, at very least, manslaughter, but because he had a pejorative against the woman, calling her a bitch as he was shooting her, and then gloating over it, that's premeditation there. And so I think it goes from manslaughter to murder, and you have so much video evidence of it that I would think it would be a fairly easy conviction in this case. But will Minnesota bring it, with Donald Trump being the most ferocious cannibal in politics that there has ever been, and with the FBI interfering with the Minnesota investigation, making it more difficult for them? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they do. But the state of Minnesota can bring charges, and if they bring the charges, Trump cannot exonerate the man. There is no means for him to do that. So we'll see whether he does it or not.
This is a jurisdictional nightmare. It is, frankly, I don't think we'll ever see the trial because we won't be here. I don't think they can bring it to trial fast enough. You know what I mean? It'll be two or 3 years before. It's a jurisdictional nightmare. The amount of evidence and social opinion that's in it. We run the difference between what is legal. Did this officer act within the law in doing what he did, okay, and what is lawful? There's no doubt he was wrong. He killed her. He was wrong, okay, but bonding, is ICE bonded? Does the federal government have to back them up like they would a sheriff's department? If a sheriff does something bad, then the case comes against the sheriff's department, not necessarily the sheriff's deputy. Those types of things.
Yeah, I think this is, if you're going to convict Chaffin in Minnesota of killing George Floyd, you can absolutely convict Ross of killing Good. The evidence is far more overwhelming that he did this deliberately. I mean, that was the difference. And I don't think Chaffin was trying to kill him. He was just trying to restrain him. In fact, that's pretty obvious. And yet he was convicted. And in this case, he didn't just shoot once, he shot 3 times. The last 2 shots, he was 90 degrees perpendicular to the car. I'm telling you, there's no interpretation of that. It's straightforward. He meant to kill her. He shot her in the face at 3 times at point blank range. And the last 2 shots, he was clearly 90 degrees perpendicular to the car. So this is what we have. And I don't think there's a jury in the world that would not convict him of this crime, whether or not he is or not. And what difference it makes ultimately, the amount of disaster that ICE is going to cause and that Donald Trump is going to cause over these next 2 years as this meanders through the legal system is going to be so egregious. This won't be a hiccup on the overall landscape of things, other than this is a marvelous opportunity to call out ICE and say it's wrong. Yes. It should never have been funded to this extent. The budget for ICE weapons is larger than the budget for most militaries around the world.
7th largest, he said. Yeah.
Yeah. It's egregious.
Absolutely.
And you want to say, well, there's Somalis there that were stealing money. Okay. So let's say there are, and clearly there are Somalis that have stole billions from the U.S. government through COVID fraud and Medicare fraud and the like. But the answer is that there are law enforcement people in Minnesota, and you send them after those people. And they're federal agents and all that sort of thing. You do not need ICE for that. And oh, by the way, where they were in Minnesota, they weren't pursuing the Somalis. Miss Good was not Somali. And none of the people that were around that event were Somali. This is interesting. Of course, Trump is saying, I'm such a great businessman, and I know how to make America great again. Tariffs is what makes America great again. And so I'm going to bring factory job back to America. Of course, there's anybody that's going to work in them because the people that would work in them, he's now deported. But and this current generation, they don't. They want to be an influencer, and it's really hard to play the role of an influencer when you're in a factory. And what factory jobs we have in America now that are actually being created are being created for robots, not for people. So this notion that ship has sailed. And I was a manufacturer of goods worldwide, both in the United States, Mexico, and in China, back in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm 70 now, so you can tell you how long ago that was. And all the way back then, I can tell you that, and I had my American facility was 450,000 square feet. That's a large factory. I can tell you emphatically that you can't do it anymore. That a factory, unless you're dealing with billions and billions of dollars and what you're doing is virtually completely automated and you're not using people, you cannot build something in the United States anymore. We don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have the transportation. We don't have the utilities. We don't have the suppliers that are necessary. You want to get a mold made in America, it takes 2 years and it's 10 times the money for that same mold being made any place else to manufacture your product. The cost of liability insurance is through the roof. The employment issues and how much money you have to pay for them and pay to the government to have them, and the rules about firing them when they don't work. It's just so egregious that I'm telling you, you can't make goods in America anymore. So you might as well just forget that, unless you're Tesla and you've got just billions and billions and billions of dollars, and you're going to make the whole thing automated. And even then, look at Tesla now. Tesla is rapidly declining in sales and in margins and everything else. Tesla is in free fall. So it just can't be done. So no. And look what he did here. This is annual change in employment year by year. And if you look at this past year, Trump year, look how low that number is. That's the lowest number. If you go through that entire chart, the only lower numbers that are lower than that, like the COVID year, we of course lost jobs because our government told people they couldn't work. And then you go back to the recession, the Great Recession of 2008, and that's when you have those numbers there. Otherwise, it's the worst on record. That's how bad a manager he is economically. He destroyed the workforce. And he wants to claim that inflation is under control. No, it isn't. Just look at your grocery receipt this year versus last year versus the year before. And what you realize is all they've done is they've changed the way that they measure inflation. I spoke of this briefly. If the price of steak has doubled and people are buying hamburger, then they change hamburger for steak, and they say, no, it's actually gone down because people are content with hamburger. So we'll pretend like that's the price of steak. If the car has doubled in price, but we say, but it's not really inflation. It's that a car has some different features. So the difference in price is really those features, not inflation. So we just
blame
changed
Bluetooth.
the rules. Yeah, we had Bluetooth. So we just changed the rules so we don't correctly convey the fact that, well, I can tell you that I was born in 1955, and the U.S. dollar has 1% of its buying power than it did back in 1955. So over these 70 years, the dollar has lost 99% of its value by being inflated by the creation of money. That's what's happened. And in this particular case, tariffs, which are not a tax on the importers. He keeps saying, I'm applying a tariff on China. I'm going to punish India with my tariffs. The Chinese aren't paying the tariffs. The Indians aren't paying the tariffs. The tariffs are paid by Americans. Tariff is a tax on Americans. And so what he's doing is just driving up the price of goods for Americans. It's a terrible thing. And making it, by the way, impossible for most companies that still do make something to be able to make it because they can't afford to bring in the parts.
Exactly.
Okay, it's a horrible picture. I know it's a horrible picture. It's Nazis killing a Jew. This is probably in the Ukraine, and it's the reason that it is so. Yeah, it is in the Ukraine. The Ukraine was far worse than Nazi Germany. There was no place in Europe that has been as anti-Semitic and caustic to Jews than Ukraine. That's why I would never support Ukraine under any circumstances. Morality does not allow me to support Ukrainians. I know their mindset. They are. We call ruthless anti-Semites Nazis. Well, long before there were Nazis, they were Ukrainians. And the reason I point this out is that there is really no difference between what you're looking at there and what ICE will continue to do if people don't stand up against this. It's one is going to morph into the other. So I was
I don't know if
by
it's
that.
a quote or a poem or whatever, but when they came for the Jews, I didn't do anything because I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the workers, I didn't do anything because I could, and
Yeah. Yeah, it
that
was.
sentiment.
It was. I came for the Saturday people, and I did nothing because I wasn't a Jew. I came for the Sunday people, and I did nothing because I was not a Christian. Then I came for me, but then there was no one to stand up for me. Is a little closer to the quote. Probably not exact, but the fact is that this is why I'm bullish. I'm aggressive. I have a very keen sense of right and wrong. I know my material, and I know how things have progressed in history, and I can see the parallels. My mind works by making connections. I see the connection between ICE and the brown shirts, and how the brown shirts then were replaced by the SS. And what happened is that with ICE, if ICE is the domestic police force for Donald Trump, as the brown shirts were, which the brown shirts, by the way, were funded by Americans, George Herbert Walker, George Prescott Bush of Union Bank, Ford, a Ford Motor Company, Watson of IBM, were the guys behind funding Hitler's personal army. And the military finally says, these guys have too much influence. And so the only way that Hitler could survive a military mutiny was to allow the SS to take out and kill the brown shirts. And so, and the brown shirts were very much like ICE. They were a lot of overfed, out of work men that had a racist bent. And the only difference at this point is that the ICE is anti-Hispanic, and Germany ultimately became anti-Jewish. But initially, the brown shirts went after political opponents, and particularly those that were even more liberal than the socialists. So it's very much like ICE today. Their enemy is the same.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time when it's not immigration status, but your online commentary, your social, your politics, or whatever, your ideologies will ICE will come for you too.
This will come for you too. Yeah, if you're not willing to capitulate. And look at Trump. He's the Hannibal Lecter of politics. So even those who are closest to him, look at Marjorie Green or Elon Musk. Incredibly close are his attorney, his fixer from his first term, Cohen. Yeah, he will absolutely destroy even the person who was the closest to him. And so if you're a MAGA, you're dealing with Satan, and Satan has no loyalties. So this is the Pentagon failed audits. Now Trump pushes for a 1.5 trillion military budget. Here's the country. It is absolutely bankrupt. We're adding more than 2 trillion to the national debt every year. We've created a monster. There's only two options now. And those two options are that since the U.S. cannot increase the rates on the debt or they'll be adding $4 trillion annually. They can't price it at a point that anybody was going to buy those bonds. So all they can, and nobody wants to buy them. They're selling them. Japan is selling them. China is selling them. Saudi Arabia is selling them, and Europe is selling them. Are all selling them and going into gold. So they've got no more. They got no takers for the bonds, and they have to sell $3 to $4 trillion worth of bonds just to keep the government doors open this year. And so the only way they can do that is to do one of two things. You either default and say, "Sorry, we can't pay our bills anymore." So we're not going to pay the interest on our bonds. We're not going to pay the bonds off. We're not going to redeem them. We're broke, and we're filing bankruptcy. Countries don't like to admit that they are bankrupt. So what they do is what Germany did prior to World War II. They inflate their currency. You just print more money. Argentina did it. Britain did it. When Britain lost the reserve currency status with the pound, they also did it. And what happens is you take wheelbarrows of money to the market. People ask to be paid 2 and 3 times a day, because by the end of the day, the money doesn't buy as much anymore. And so you destroy the value of your currency, and you torch the dollar, which is what is being shown here. And so it's either you torch your currency and you go into hyperinflation, or you declare bankruptcy. Either way, it ends in a reset, and in the reset, your savings has no value, none.
Just a number, yeah.
Just a number. It goes away. No value whatsoever. So this is what we're up against. And what Trump is trying to do is to salvage the petrodollar through belligerence. If we go attack enough people, invade enough people. But for example, the thing on Venezuela is never going to work out. It would cost $100 billion to restore all of that. And Chevron and Exxon, they're not going back in to spend $100 billion. So the government said, well, okay, we'll give you the money, because the money doesn't mean anything to the U.S. government anymore. It's all funny money. We'll give you the money to do that. And they said, well, thanks, but everybody we send in, they're going to kill. So how does that work? Because you don't have any troops there. You just did an operation and pulled out your guy, but you didn't change anything. They go in there.
But we're in control of Venezuela.
No, we're not going to do that. That is stupid, and it would take 10 years to do it. And so no, it's not possible. It cannot be done. And so all we did is make a mess of things. All we did is piss off China and Russia and everybody in Latin America by what we did. The belligerence is not going to work. Although I guess that microwave weapon is quite the thing. It will burn your britches, and it'll cause blood to come out your nose, and you'll be vomiting up blood, and makes your skin light up like it's on fire. It's a really nasty thing that we evidently deployed there.
I haven't seen the uses of it. I understand what microwave energy does, and so if you could focus it, it would definitely be a mess.
Yeah, that's what the Chinese have one. I don't know if the Russians have one or not. The United States has been developing it through DARPA. We screamed at the Chinese for it, but every once in a while you'll see DARPA talk about it and what it does. I've seen it over the last 10 years. Just never been deployed previously. It evidently was deployed here, and it does render people unable to do anything. They just go into complete convulsions. It's agonizing, and so they've rendered it impossible. We don't to do with that. There's a series of pictures here. We can just talk about it briefly, but this was Facebook does the nostalgia thing every once in a while, where they said this was you and what you were posting a year ago. So we needed a picture for the blog, and there I was before the gray beard. I look like, God, I tell you, that's a year ago, and I look 100 years younger then, but a double rainbow. So my wife said, okay, that'll be a picture. We'll use that for your blog picture because of the rainbow. But I do look 100 years younger a year ago.
Just shave. If you just shave, you'll just look just like that. I get the same thing all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, once upon a time, I I had a yacht that was an 82 footer there. That is my that's Asher, who loved to be yachty, and this is a national park that's you see it in the Ocean Studio when we do the background pictures. That's Buck Island.
Okay.
At the
Buck
beach
Island,
on Buck Island. We used to take the boat out there. When I was in Fort Lauderdale, we called that a fun size yacht because in Fort Lauderdale, that's a small boat. You bring it here to the Virgin Islands, you got an 82-foot boat, with 5 staterooms and the like.
No place to dock it.
It's the queen of the fleet. It was a really beautiful, just gorgeous vessel. We sold it about a year ago, and don't own it anymore because this is all we do at this point. But you can see this was something that Asher liked very much, and she loved to watch the turtles and the dolphins come up to the side of the boat, and we put this island pad behind there, and she would lay on that and watch them swim around her. It was kind of a fun thing to do. Different lifetime ago, a long time ago, faraway kingdom. Yes, here we are. That was the first. That's the Ocean Studio. That's the first ever, because you can see with the little rainbow stuff and the gremlins in the cup. Leia was producing back then. We were doing it on a laptop back then. Rich now has, you can see over here to my right, he's got quite the studio set up. Very different now than it used to be back then. But here we took that patio, we turned it into a studio. But this was the first time, and that was a year ago that we did the first broadcast from the Ocean Studio.
I remember the first broadcast. You were outside. You were sitting in the lounge, your arm out like this, talking to the camera, and it was turning dark behind you and everything. And it's like now we're out there in a chair, so we can get the better view behind us. All the staging has changed and everything.
Yep.
We might go back to the recliner one day,
I think so. That looks a lot more comfortable than where we are now. And you can see that was actually a little bit of a teleprompter there. So we do have the teleprompter. We've now got this very new. We should do one of these times. People do these shows where they talk about what they have in their studio. Well, we've got a lot of gear. We could do a really amazing show on how to vlog with all of the gear that we have. But the most recent is this inverter box, which enables us to, and in that studio, I have a laptop that I can do things like online. I could see just like this. I have a laptop that I'm looking at, and I can project that laptop on the teleprompter, which requires it to be inverted. And the same thing is true. I can use the teleprompter to read passages that I've translated from a standard Word document out of a book that I've written. And this is just a marvelous device that does that, as opposed to using teleprompter software, which is really glitchy and not designed for the amount of material that we go through. So it's an interesting addition to the toolbox, and we're about to establish that also out here.
I bet Rich is having so much fun getting that set up. He loves that part, doesn't he?
He does.
When it works.
Yeah, he does when it works. He's not so happy when it doesn't work. But we do have, I just bought our 4th teleprompter, so we've got another teleprompter for him to set up in that magical box. You've done some shows where you've shown yourself down here. You see that bed there in the background? That is a full-on spa, multi-articulating massage bed there. And that chair that's right above your head, that's actually a barber chair where my wife would cut my hair, and we'd give one another massages. And it was really a lovely place to be romantic and spend some time together. And now we share it with our good friend Rich, and it's a few tens of thousands of other people, because we use it as a vlogging studio. So it has changed a lot, but that brought back memories. That's what it used to look like once upon a time. It's kind of pretty. That wall there is when we bought this house, this was a sort of a dungeon area. It was all below ground. We've now cut windows into it so it has natural light, and that was a concrete wall, and it was concrete floor, concrete ceiling. We put noise attenuating, really decorative tiles on the ceiling, and then this wall, so it would not look claustrophobic in there. I came up with the idea with my glass guy. Well, you make sandblast some large panels of glass, and come up with a frame for them, and I'm going to put LED light strips on the wall, and we're going to create a wall of ever-changing lights that'll just be so dramatic and beautiful down there, and that's what we did. So that's how that colorful wall came to be.
Maura says online she sees a harp. She likes your harp under the desk there.
Yeah, it's a lyre there.
Lyre. Who's playing it?
David's lyre, or layer, or whatever the proper pronunciation on the right syllable.
Syllable.
This is what it used to look like before we turned it into a studio down there. Oh, well, at least it's a pretty home. We live in a beautiful place in the U.S. Virgin Islands, overlooking the sea. This is all just reminiscent. Since we're doing the vlog on the vlog, this is what I posted. There was a beautiful morning. That was 365 mornings ago. That's the backside of the house. And then this next one here, that's the front side. I just designed and built that fountain. And really a beautiful fountain that literally comes down the wall of the house all the way, and matching the same bias pattern of marble. It was really a pretty design to be able to execute. But that's really a pretty entrance now to the home. And this last one, I think, is the last one. Pardon?
The sound of moving water is really relaxing, because you don't get that in a pool, and you don't get that in a spa, a hot tub or anything.
Yeah, we have it in both of our pool in there. That was interesting. I created waterfalls where you get to see the backside of water, the backside of a waterfall. So I created these obelisks that had the cutaway in them, so that you got to see them from the front side and through them, and from one to the other. It was a really interesting design element. This is Wookie a year ago. He is reading. This is I'm editing my final version of Coming Home 3. That's my news feed on the right. So I'm taking in some news. Wookie's reading the book, having a cup of coffee. It looks like just finished a bowl of cereal. And, there we go. That's how we started our day. That was back in the day that this room that I'm in right now was actually an office. This is where I did all my translating and writing. And now, well, it's, you can see it. It doesn't look like an office anymore. Like you walked into a movie production facility.
Studio 3.
Studio 3. Well, this is actually Studio 1, and we have Studio 2 and 3. And one of these days we'll have 4. This is tragic, but the world does not know what happened in Syria. But going back almost 20 years now, the CIA wanted regime change in Syria. And so the CIA decided that, because they're really disgusting, that they would arm fundamentalist Islamic terrorist groups. And they would use those fundamentalist Islamic terrorist groups as proxies to go kill anyone associated with Assad. And Assad's crime wasn't, because CIA doesn't care about mass murder. You kill your own people. They don't care about that. The CIA only cares about one thing. Do you buy American weapons or Russian weapons? If you buy Russian weapons, you got to go. If you buy American weapons, you can stay. So they decided that they were going to take out Assad using Islamic terrorist groups. And the CIA has been about this for a long time. And then we came up with the lie about Iraq not only having weapons of mass destruction, but Iraq harboring al-Qaeda. There was no al-Qaeda in Iraq, and they didn't have many weapons of mass destruction. We still went in there and destroyed the country because of, well, trying to control oil is what we also do. So when we were in Iraq, the Shiite Muslims, which were more than the Sunni Muslims and were leagued with Iran, started killing American servicemen because Saddam Hussein's military, it folded in the first day. And so all you had was Islamic terrorist groups. And so Petraeus and George Bush came up with this great idea. Great idea. What we'll do is we'll give weapons to Sunni Muslims, and we'll pretend that they're going to use those weapons to go after al-Qaeda. But Al-Qaeda is a Sunni organization, so they wouldn't do that. And Al-Qaeda didn't exist in Iraq. What they really wanted them to do is they wanted the Sunni Muslim terrorist organizations to use these American weapons to go kill Shia Muslim terrorist organizations who were killing Americans. And so, guess what? The awakening program became
ISIS.
Drumroll, please.
Yeah.
ISIS. Yep, that's what they became. And so the ISIS exists because of the United States. And then ISIS, the Yazidi women and girls and what they did is, and the men that they crucified, it's one of the worst expressions of Islam ever. And it also proves the point that I had made 10 years before that time, which is when I said that if you were to eliminate Al-Qaeda, Islam would just metastasize under another terrorist name. And what happened is Al-Qaeda metastasized as the Islamic State. And so it went from bad to worse. And al-Jilani was the head there for a while of the Islamic State. Now he changes names for himself and for his terrorist organization quite routinely, but he is the head of the Islamic State. And the United States is responsible for that. And the United States wanted Assad gone because, well, they wanted Syria to buy American weapons. And the fact that he's an Islamic terrorist didn't mean anything to us. So he's killed now the Alawite Muslims. He's killed Christians. And now he's hunting Kurds. This is what you get. Yeah. This is what you get. And sadly, it's not just the CIA is involved. You know who's the kissing cousin to the CIA and all of these regime change operations and working with the CIA and regime change right now in Iran? The Mossad. The Mossad.
Oh.
And what they continue to get is worse. It just, every time, it turns out worse. I mean, how well did replacing Gaddafi do? How well did replacing the Northern Alliance do in Afghanistan? Look what's happened with Syria. It's worse. Look what happened with Iraq. It's worse. Look what happened with Somalia or the Sudan. Every time it's always the same. It's always worse. Every regime change operation perpetrated by the CIA and or the Mossad makes a bad situation worse. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at here. Hopefully, we'll have an image of the protests in Iran, and before long here, and I can just tell you what's going on there too. But before we do, this guy, I mean to tell you, where did they find this guy, Starmer? I mean to tell you, this is the most useless human being on the planet. I mean, he's worse than Macron, and Macron is really, really worthless. I mean, they're in the same league as van der Leyen. I mean, absolute dunderheads. So he wanted to send British troops to Ukraine to go fight Ruskies. You know, what do the Russians have now? 2 million men in their military. I mean, it's just well trained, well armed. The British couldn't muster 20,000, I don't think, and they're very poorly equipped. I don't think they have 20 functional tanks. I mean, he's got nothing.
Right.
The British Empire is completely imploded, and there's nobody in Britain that wants to go off and fight a Ruski, or now he wants to put them into Greenland to go fight Americans. That's what he's talking about here. He wants to put British troops in Greenland to fight Americans, so we don't invade Greenland. And while I agree we shouldn't be invading Greenland, he isn't going to stop them with Brits. And if he did, think about how stupid that would be. But the young British men have zero interest in fighting for this man because they have watched their country be destroyed by the onslaught of Muslims and the rape of their women and the desecration of their society. And so, no, they are not going to play with this man at all. Zero chance. So it's just living in absolute denial.
Did you ever think you'd live in a time whenever NATO members would be talking about attacking each other openly talking
I
about
have
Denmark.
never been. Mhm. Yeah, I've never been a fan of NATO because I've always looked at these kind of treaty organizations as the catalyst for war. It almost always works out that way. So I'm just not a fan of them. And in this case, NATO is the instigator for the Ukrainian-Russian proxy war. We said that when Russia was willing to give up East Germany and East Berlin to unify Germany, the promise was that NATO wouldn't move 1 inch closer to Russia. And I think there's been 12 additions, and they were doing most of their war games in Ukraine. That was going to be the 13th. It was announced by George Bush 20 years ago that we were going to add Ukraine, and we didn't give a crap. He actually said, I don't give a crap what the Russians think. And so NATO is the cause of this war. And NATO is not protecting anyone's peace. They are an incredibly destructive organization. And so, I don't care that NATO blows up. In fact, our job is much easier if the whole world goes to World War III sooner rather than later, because people will listen to our answer, which is YAHOWAH. But here's another. What very few people consider, and this is true also with the proxy war that George Bush and company started. Also, Lindsey Graham was a huge proponent of this. But the proxy war using Ukrainians to kill Russians, and what these people just didn't bother to think. And John McCain was a good friend of mine, so I knew John McCain, and he was a huge advocate of this too. Is that the likelihood of you winning and arming a proxy to go kill Russians is slim. And all you're trying to do, if you win, you want to divide up Russia and claim their assets, which is immoral. It's like what we're trying to do in Venezuela. That's just grossly immoral. But what if you actually win? If you actually win, do you think that a country like Russia, that has the most nuclear weapons, is going to say, "Oh, you got us, so we're just going to lay down and you can have us"? Or do you think they're going to fire those nuclear weapons? So if when winning is losing, you ought not be doing it. The same thing is true with Israel and Iran. Israel cannot control Iran. There is no example of an Islamic country having regime change and it turning out peachy keen. So by continuing to poke the Iranian mullahs, and listen, I'm the most outspoken person against the Islamic rule. 55 Islamic countries, they're the hellholes on earth. It is disgusting what they have done. They are the ultimate colonializers. They are ruthless with their apartheid, and they have been horrendous with their genocide. So I'm opposed to them. And the Persian people deserve better than Islam. They were conquered in that first 100 years of Islam. They were ruthlessly conquered because they were weak, as was the world, because the Romans and the Persians had been beating each other up to the point that they were just both out of steam. They had killed everybody they could fight. And so by the time that the first Muslims came along, they were whooped. And so it was they were pushovers, and the Muslims just, they raped, plundered, enslaved, and killed upwards of 200 million people in 100 years. Anyway, Israel is not thinking this through. Israel cannot occupy Iran. Israel cannot conquer Iran. Yes, Israel can bomb Iran, but the last bombing, as I said, was just going to make a bad situation worse. It's exactly what it did. It's 6 months ago. And everybody was saying, "Oh, wow, we annihilated them, man. We ended their nuclear program. We taught those Iranians a lesson. Boy, aren't we great?" No, Israel suffered badly in that conflict. And if Trump hadn't ended it, Israel probably would have been destroyed. But here's the problem that nobody wanted to think about. And that is that the enriched uranium had already been moved out of Fordo and the other facilities, Nance, that they bombed, and they already had enough uranium-235 to build, because they had a tritium factory. They could build upwards of 30 nuclear warheads. Already had all that material. They already had all the technology to build them. They already had all the rockets to launch them. And so the U.S. and Israel accomplished nothing by bombing them. And I said, within 6 months, you're going to find out that you didn't accomplish anything but make them mad. And making them mad is a real big problem now, particularly after Trump went into Venezuela, that was supplying oil for China and doing some diversion for Russia, because now they are even more dependent on Iran. And so there is no chance that the U.S. and Israel can go play bomb Iran and not engage the Chinese and the Russians. This is really stupid on our part and on Israel's part, with the kind of weapons that will be deployed, because there is no chance that Russia is going to allow America to take Iran from it, nor is there any chance that China is going to allow that. So I don't know what people are thinking with all their belligerence, but this is certain to start World War III if they do it again. And the last time, you got to learn from your mistakes.
Leave them out.
Yeah, the last time it was that terrible mistake, and this one's a mistake too. And people just not thinking. Oh, he's having a rough time. I went, this time a year ago, I was writing posts about my admiration for this man, because I've been an entrepreneur. I know how hard it is to start a company, take them public, which I've done several times. I know how difficult it is that what he's doing, and he was spectacular at it. And so I when everybody was trying to poke holes in him, I was writing favorable articles about him and what he had achieved, and particularly some of the things he'd overcome in his life. And then when he decided he was going to become part of the Trump administration and start that Doge thing by not working through Congress, but pretending that he is, like Trump, CEO of the world, I said, this is going to fail. You have no chance of succeeding under this basis, because Congress controls the purse strings of this nation vis-a-vis the Constitution. And so the way you're going about it has no chance of success. And all you're doing is you're announcing things to make people mad, but you're not producing any indictments. And so if you can't produce indictments, then you shouldn't be making the statements and the accusations. You're just embarrassing yourself here. And nothing that you're going to accomplish will stand, because the courts will overturn it, because the president doesn't have the authority to do these things. It's Congress. And I said, because he's an OSPI, he suffers from Asperger's. He is particularly susceptible to the personality type that is Donald Trump as a psychopath. The psychopaths eat OSPIs for lunch. And I said, you're going to be spit out. This is going to be a really horrible experience for you. And I, pretended like, if you hashtagged him and ampersand him, that, maybe he would listen. He didn't. And he has, over the last month, he's just lost it. His claims on what he's going to do with SpaceX and what he's doing with Tesla and what he's doing with Optimus, they're not even in the realm of reality. He is selling nothing but hype. He's a man that has lost it all, really. I mean, it is crumbling around him. Optimus is more fraud than real. Tesla is in free fall as an EV company, and SpaceX has nowhere to go. There is 0% possibility that we're going to send men to the moon to live on the moon. We can send them to die there, but that'll cost $1 trillion, and that's all we can do. And so SpaceX has got no place to go. Tesla is in free fall, and Optimus is not the solution. And X has become an utter swamp, and this is the problem. And it's become a swamp because he has now exposing himself as an absolute racist. He is promoting white supremacy, and he's just lost it. So it's he's now got 3 countries that are talking about banning X, and you can't defend him.
He reminds me the Howard Hughes of our time. well, my time anyway. You're probably old enough to remember who Howard
Oh, of
Hughes
course.
was.
Oh,
And
of course, yeah. Howard Hughes from the
someone-
Spruce Goose, and he was became a movie producer. He owned TWA Airlines. He
Yeah.
owned the Hughes Tool Company. He built one of the first spy ships for the United States, yeah, he was quite the aviator. I'm a professional pilot, so I respected his aviation skills. But he, of course, got all sorts of psychiatric issues that ultimately brought him down. But yeah, Howard Hughes was quite the man with his Hughes Tool Company, Hughes Satellite Company. So yeah, he was an Elon Musk before his time. Yeah, this is that mystery weapon. Okay. I've read the article. It's not well documented. It was published probably in 20 different periodicals. It's the same interview with the same person describing it. We killed a bunch of people, so dead men tell no tales. But the person that came out explained what happened, and blood coming out their nose, vomiting up blood, being totally incapacitated, the pain being unbelievable. And he says, I don't know what the weapon is, but I tell you one thing, it is one sophisticated weapon, and you can't go up against it. You cannot survive it. You cannot fight under it. He said the first thing that we saw is that all of our radar screens just went crazy and went to white. And the next thing is this sound that came out of this was so piercing and so destructive that we were completely incapacitated. So that is what we did. But we don't have troops there now. I mean, we only came there. I think we had 15,000 or something was the total number of troops that were even positioned in the area. And I don't know what tiny percentage of them are actually inbound. But we haven't invaded with lots of tanks and that sort of thing. We don't have any control over that country other than the CIA saying to the current socialist that is part of the Maduro regime, that you either do what we say or we'll kill you too. I mean, that's about all we got. So we're a billion miles from turning a bad situation into one that is less bad. But we had nice weapons.
It's interesting that there was an audible component to it, because microwave energy is subaudible, of course, but it still can vibrate the eardrums, causing the nausea and everything. A lot like what they said was used against the American embassy in Cuba years ago.
You know how a microwave oven works?
Yes.
Yeah, it actually vibrates the water molecules inside the food, and the vibration of those water molecules with friction creates heat, and so it cooks by vibrating. If there's no moisture, it won't work at all. It cooks it vibrates the moisture in the food, the water molecules, such that they create friction, and that's heat. So in your body, they would vibrate to those molecules, and the vibration would make noise. Your microwave oven makes noise too, and it would be ghastly as an experience, and that's what was explained. All right, so this is saying that. Yeah, it's here is Oscar Wilde's comment. Some men improve the world only by leaving it. And so I just want to let people know that having studied the prophets, this man will leave this world. You can mark your calendars. Trump, as Satan, makes his exit on the 24th of September in 2033. And he will be at the time on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. He will be in a wheelchair, but he'll have lots of vicious minions around him. But the only reason he's going to stay alive is that he is literally imbued with the very spirit of Satan. That is Satan incarnate right there. And he will die on the Temple Mount. I will be his last victim, by the way. Prophets are really clear, but I'll be the last person he kills. And I can speak about this like it's no big deal, because it really is no big deal. He's taking my body. He'll kill my body. He's going to bludgeon it. The prophets say there'll be only one bone that's not broken. That's how big a bloody mess they're going to make of me. But it's my body. The only part of me that matters, only part of any of us that matters, are nefesh souls. And my nefesh soul is protected by the ruach. And so it's a no big deal. In fact, one of the things that was really interesting as I was studying Isaiah 57, is that it confirms what I have long thought to be true, which is that when Dode fulfilled Pesach and Matzah, while it was a gruesome death for him to suffer crucifixion, he writes about it in the 22nd chapter of 22nd Psalm, and also in the 88th of how gruesome crucifixion is, which he endured in his second of three lives. And then, of course, his soul went into hell, into Sheol, to carry away our guilt. And so you'd say, well, why would God allow his beloved son to do those things? It's because God took the blows. He enveloped Dode's nefesh this whole time, never left him, with his ruach, and the ruach is the one that absorbed all of the blows. And so Dode had to know, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm trusting you to do your part too. I'm going into Sheol, into hell, which is the equivalent of a black hole. You better have my back, Dad.
Right.
And so in describing what I'm going to endure on Teruah, which is this 23rd, 24th of September, 2033, in preparation of purging the religious remnant of Yisrael of their guilt so that Dode can return as king on the 2nd of October of that year. It makes it very clear that the Spirit takes the blows. It's a gruesome scene to make the point, but God takes care of his kids.
I had always thought so. I had always thought that it wasn't drawn out, that there's something supernatural.
It is drawn out, and it's gruesome because you got to get people's attention. And it's going to be an unbelievable spectacle what's going to happen. But God does. If you choose to work with God and are that supportive of what He once achieved, you are so unique that God's not ever going to allow any harm to come to you. And so what you're doing is you're trusting God to do what needs to be done, and provide that protection. And He is. This is what I mean here. This was a post by a person who wrote that just as was the case of Rhodesia becoming the apartheid and racist state of Zimbabwe, which is what happened. I was in Rhodesia as a young man, loved it. Got malaria there, unfortunately, but I did love it. And it has become a horrible apartheid state of Zimbabwe. And I was in South Africa, loved it, loved the people there. And the liberals condemned the Afrikaans of apartheid. And so apartheid was eliminated from South Africa, and the blacks replaced it with genocide against whites. And so now what he's saying, this is coming soon to America. And the answer is no, it's not. And if you're promoting that kind of racism, there's something seriously wrong with you. That is white supremacist kinds of mentality. That is not true. America has many problems, but a racial war where blacks become the majority and kill whites, as is the case in South Africa and Rhodesia, no, it is not going to happen. And for Elon Musk to say this is true, and this is why he is so supportive of white supremacy now, that it's makes you want to puke. Racism, anybody that is going to make a judgment of people based upon race isn't worth knowing. That's just my position on the whole matter. If your skin color is the means that people are going to judge you, then those people are not worth knowing. And this is what Musk has fallen into. He is judging people based on their skin color. He is projecting race wars in America, and that is just not happening. America has 1,000 problems. Race war, like South Africa and Rhodesia, ain't among them. And all it does is he's exposing his own failed character. And becoming a racist is not becoming when you own a platform like X. Any thoughts on that one, sir?
There will be no race wars in the sense of, you're absolutely right. What happened in South Africa and it, what I have found is that typically people don't want to be judged by the content of their character.
No, they do, and it's not good.
They say it.
That's what the whole idea of social media is. You're letting people judge you based upon the content of your character, and it's really bad. That's the whole point. Elon is exposing his character, and it's lacking.
Right.
Oh my! He is actually drawing up plans for invading Greenland. Oh my God! How many people live in Greenland?
Not so many that you can't pay each of them 100,000 each.
So that 57,000 is the number of Greenlanders.
Okay.
Do you know why there's only 57,000 Greenlanders?
because there's only that.
You couldn't support 58,000 is why. That country, for the most part, is buried under a mile and a half of compacted ice. The weather conditions there aren't even suitable for a polar bear. The windstorms there are blistering. I mean, upwards of 100-mile-an-hour winds. Temperatures that are subhuman even to survive. It is the most awful place. It's called Greenland, of course, but it's not green. Every place that is part of that island, and it's the largest island non-continent in the world. It's just hostile. If I've looked at probably 30 minutes of video, maybe an hour's worth of video of various places, because I happen to like the charming architecture of all of the colorful houses on the knolls and the ridges and the rock lines and that sort of thing. It's really picturesque. Just how humbly really they all live. There's nothing ostentatious in this country at all, and they live very, very simple lives. But there's not a tree in the place. I don't think there's a single tree. I mean, nothing for them. In 90% of this country, nothing lives in 90% of this country. And the United States doesn't want it for defensive purposes because Greenland already gave the U.S. the rights to enormous tracts of land in the far north, where we have put all of our radar kinds of early warning systems. So they're already there. So there's no taking over Greenland because you need the early radar knowledge, because that's where the missiles are going to come in from Russia. No, you do not need it from there. And by the way, you can't deal with the new Russian missiles anyway. And the primary weapon they're going to use is the new Poseidon submarine launch missile, and you're never going to see that coming. And it's not coming in via Greenland, and the new hypersonic missiles are not coming in that direction, and you couldn't shoot them out of the eye if you wanted to. In fact, you can't even recognize them on radar because of the speed of these things. They create an atmosphere around them that radar can't even pick up. So you aren't going to stop them by building more there. So he is absolutely lying about it. The only thing that exists is there are deposits of rare earths that are used in military apparatus in the South. Where nobody really lives, and he wants to steal it. I mean, that is it. There's nothing more to it than that. And yet, if he steals it, NATO's gone and Europe's gone. And if you lose Europe as vassals to the dollar, after you've already lost China and Russia and India and Brazil and most of South America as vassals to the dollar, you got nothing. You've destroyed yourself. It's suicide. I mean, this is a suicidal ploy by a man that's completely out of control.
Didn't Denmark controls whatever Greenland? I thought I read a while back that Denmark was or had funded its social programs out for like 30 years or something due to the natural resources that were in Greenland, that they were somehow what's the word, taking a mortgage out on them or something, that was what was Denmark funding Denmark's social programs. Everybody talks about socialism works so great in Denmark and the Netherlands and up in those three northern places, Sweden and everything.
By the way,
it's the
it
model
doesn't. By
for
the way, it
socialism.
doesn't. They've lost
Right.
They've lost control of those countries, not only by immigration, but they've lost control of those countries economically. Their businesses are all faltering, and in their you're dealing with countries the size of large families. So it's not it's like running a kibbutzim in Israel. If they were, or were they, or if they are not, the fact of the matter is that Denmark did acquire the Greenland. I don't know, about 100 years ago, I guess, maybe 200 years ago, something in that range of time. But they have given Greenland autonomy because colonialization doesn't work anymore. They have given Greenland autonomy, and Greenland has the opportunity to vote for any amount of autonomy they wish to have. And so it's really the choice, of course, of people. Do you want to be part of this belligerent piece of crap here, or apart from him? And they live very simple lives. They don't want to be part of it. It's 90+% saying, hell no, we don't want to be part of it. They're very simple people, all basically the same Inuit, the same ethnicity. They live extremely simple lives. They're mostly fishermen. And no, they don't want any part of it. And the reason that Europe is so upset about it is that this is has much closer ties to Europe than it does to the America. And if Trump's just going to undermine a NATO member like this and take it,
Right.
then Europe's saying that what's the purpose of NATO? What's the purpose of the United States? Obviously, it's not a matter of we can't trust him. We can distrust him.
Yeah, you can't do business with somebody that's just going to show up and take whatever they want.
Correct. Which is what he does.
We could trade. You want those rare earths that are on Greenland? Buy them. We'll mine them for you. Well, let's get a contract for that. But no, we're just going to show up and take it.
Correct. That's what we do. It's what he said with the oil in Venezuela. We're just going to take it. What he said to the people in those boats. We're just going to kill them. We're going to kill a bunch of them. No problem. We're just going to kill a bunch of people.
But we can't take the oil because we have no infrastructure to get it out.
Now he found out after he did all of this that no, we really can't take the oil. And we really can't convict Maduro on being part of a drug cartel because the CIA had started running that drug cartel. So that's a problem too. Oh, well. When you don't think things through. Oh, yeah, this is where I made my statement. And I'm sure there's people that don't like this very much. But the fact of the matter is I don't take well to people that are out of control, that think they're a big time operator because somebody gave them a badge and they do something that is threatening to me. I'm going to stand up against them 100% of the time. And so if I were in a situation where I had somebody trying to yank me out of my car when I had done nothing wrong, and they want to yank me out of my car, which is what one of the officers was doing, trying to grab the door and trying to reach in there and grab her and pull her out of her car. And another one that pulled his pistol before she was moving in that car and swore at her and then fired at her with 2 of the 3 shots through the side window, blowing her head off. Being in that situation, the intelligent thing to do is, rather than die, or rather than being sent to a concentration camp and having your rights deprived by these idiots, the intelligent thing to do is to take out that person that's threatening to kill you. That is self-defense. And in her case, that would have been the right call. She did not make that call. She turned the wheels of the car to miss him, and she died as a result. I'm not sure there's a lot of people out here that are going to agree with me on that, but that's my response. I'm not going to put up with that shit. By the way, I have a exceedingly well-equipped protection agency. You can't see any of them, but I am telling you that if you want to come and improve your point, you're a Muslim, you don't like what I'm going to say next, you're a MAGA, and you don't like my defiance of ICE and you trying to deprive people of their liberty, come at me and see how it works out well for you. I have upwards of 10,000 death threats for having written Prophet of Doom and now Goddamn Religion, and I never duck for cover. if you want to know my protection plan, you can read the 91st Psalm. It's all outlined for you right there. So I'm impervious. This is reprehensible. This is what goes on in Islam. It's gone on in Islam for 14 centuries, and pedophilia is not right anywhere at any time. It's one of the reasons I despise Donald Trump. Pedophilia is flat out wrong. Do you know only 1% of the Epstein files have been released? By the way,
Yeah.
Speaking of pedophilia, in Muhammad's case, he set the precedent for this. This is why Islam is so rotten. If Muhammad was born in the year of the elephant, which is one of the Quran surahs, which it's a crazy thing, but it was based on a historical event, with Allah claiming credit for defeating a foe. In fact, there's a whole bunch of stories in the Quran that actually explain what happened in Arabia, why he had access to the Hanif poetry. This man named Tuba, and he was came and he conquered what was Yathrib, but he came in with a few elephants. And so the story is that there's the year of the elephants, and it's to symbolize Muhammad's birth. And if that is the truth, then Muhammad was 66 years old when he first crawled into bed to have sex with a girl who was 6. Aisha was 6 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his best friend's daughter, the only really follower that he had, Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr gave Muhammad, she was out playing with her toys, the story says, and they brought her in crying, cleaned her up, put her on a bed, closed the door with Muhammad in there with her. He was 66 years old. She was 6. And the Quran condones it. So if you think that's
the only thing I think they should bring back public hangings for.
Pedophilia.
Yeah,
I'd say pedophilia. I think there's actually one thing worse than pedophilia. It's a variation of pedophilia: incest.
Incest, sure.
I think that incest, when it's a father and a daughter, or a mother and a son, I think that familial pedophilia is even worse than random pedophilia.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
the destruction of trust.
Yeah, I mean, the Roman Catholic Church is guilty of this, and we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of victims of the Roman Catholic Church. But Islam is the worst ever in terms of pedophilia. And so it's just an astonishing thing that you have progressive liberals rallying with Muslims for the genocide of Israel, when Islam is the most repressive religion ever conceived in terms of its abuse of children and of women. And
if you're willing
Muhammad
to cut children's genitalia and pump them full of drugs, I'm pretty sure that pedophilia isn't a problem for you. Is it a deal breaker?
250 million Muslim girls have their genitalia disfigured, cut, so that
by their
they
families.
maimed, so that they can feel no pleasure in sex, and so that they can be sold for a higher price, virgins, because in Islam there is no love. It's control, and they don't give a crap that the woman feels no pleasure. As a loving man, you cannot have a favorable sexual experience if the woman feels no pleasure. If it isn't mutually pleasurable, it isn't individually pleasurable if you are a decent human being. And yet in Islam, it's perpetual virgins in paradise, and it's women with clitectomies, such that it's strictly about control and conquest. In fact, if it wasn't for Muhammad coming up with the idea of he could lure men to fight for him by promising them absolute control over women. You can beat them, you can rape them, you can do anything you want to them. They have no rights. That is what motivated men to fight jihad and be terrorists for Muhammad. And it's as pervasive in the religion. It's endorsed by Allah. If you don't think what I'm telling you is the truth, then go prove me wrong. Go read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, and write me a letter of apology once you're through, because that is the truth.
Well, I have some of the surahs cut for some of our Islam videos, so yeah, I'm not going to try to prove you wrong.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I mean, I could produce 500 Quranic and Hadith verses on sexual perversity associated with Muhammad and the first Muslims, and I could produce several thousand lethal citations from the Quran and Hadith about how deadly Islam was when during Muhammad's time with the first Muslims.
And this was in Iraq. This wasn't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where it is. You know, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, it's Bachiba. They do it to little boys, and other places it's with little girls. It's in Saudi Arabia, it's slaves. They bring in women under false pretenses all the way up the line, all the way up to MBS. And under model contracts, they take their passports. The women hate them, the Islamic women, so they beat them, they torture them, and the men just have sex with them, and they're left in dungeons until they give up and they kill them. Yeah, this it's just another. How could you be this stupid? You create the Islamic State, and then you bomb the Islamic State. I mean, which is the Full Employment Act for the U.S. military. We're going to create the enemy, then we're going to go kill the enemy we created. And Americans say, yeah, I'm patriotic. Go military. I love the military. Now, this is another one that just really bothers me. Now, he has not been eliminated. That you can't believe a lot of what's posted. His elimination wouldn't do squat. It's just like killing Osama bin Laden. It didn't set back Islamic terrorism one iota, did it? Killing Muammar Gaddafi, killing Saddam Hussein, typically counterproductive. Assad leaving that country. No, it doesn't change the nature of the religion. And I've made probably the biggest inroads in Iran, in that Prophet of Doom, my first book on Islam, had a higher per capita readership in Iran than any other place on earth. And over that 10-year period that it had such high readership there, it's now goddamn religion, free at YAHOWAH.com. That during that time, the percentage of Iranians who referred to themselves as Sunni Muslims went from in the 80 percentile down to about 30. Wow. And so Shia Muslims declined rapidly. And I received more emails from Iranians than any other place on earth, pursuant to the help that Prophet of Doom provided in demonstrating that Islam was rotten to the core, and that Allah was not a god, Muhammad was not a prophet, and that women are grossly mistreated in the religion. So I've had a huge positive influence on helping Persians return to being Persians again and not Muslims. But I also am a student of world history, and particularly of the CIA's malfeasance. And regime change does not work in the Islamic world. It never has. So what are the likelihood that if those young men and women who are rioting and revolting in the streets are going to form a positive, free enterprise oriented, freedom of speech basis for democracy, it's about nil. And
well, they can't. They're not forming anything. They're fighting against something. They're not fighting for something. They have. We don't know what we want. We don't know where we're going. We just know we don't like this, and that never works.
No, and this particular one is different than the previous ones. The previous two were over the hijab, women saying we want some rights, and both of those they said, oh, this is going to be it for the regime, and of course the regime survived both of those too. And then this one is actually over socialism. These morons have destroyed the country. They nationalized all businesses. They couldn't run them. They destroyed all free enterprise, and they just destroyed the country economically. And so this is over the collapse of the currency and the demise of the country economically. They can't even want a water system. There's no water in Tehran anymore.
No water.
They can't keep the lights on. So they're dunderheads running business. And one of the things you learn in business that the only chance you have of a business succeeding or economy succeeding is you have to have people that have greed motivation. selfish motivations for themselves and their families, working to better their lives and the lives of their family. Without that, there is no progress. There is no motivation for anybody to show up. And what you get is a stagnant society where everybody becomes impoverished and everybody loses freedoms, because those kind of people have to be controlled because they're otherwise miserable, just as they are here in Iran. And that the larger an institution, the less efficient it is. Socialist, communist governments are concentrations of power, and they become exceedingly inefficient. So that's what happened with Iran economically, of course. Religiously, Islam is a religion that will not tolerate freedom. The Quran is very clear. There's no freedom for Muslims. The religion name is submission. So Allah calls all Muslims his slaves. So there is no freedom in this religion. There can never be an Islamic democracy. And so what are they going to? That is the $1 million question. And if you think they're going back to a monarchy and they're going to bring a king back, these young people aren't going to do that. And so what are they moving to? I'd love for them to overthrow the regime, but I've seen them overthrow regimes, and we ended up with Libya, where the main commodity now in Libya is sex slaves. And the main commodity now in Syria is jihadi war against minorities. No, it doesn't work. So it's a horrible mess.
I think I wrote on a post about this. If they wait long enough, the Persians in Iran will have their king come back. The real Lion King. The
real Lion King. Well, it won't be their king, and most of them won't be here. But the Lion King is coming back, and the lion is the Lion of Judah, and the king that is returning is David, who we spoke of in the beginning of this program. So, yeah, it's going to happen. It's just that they're not.
They won't be around to. Yeah.
No, and you just got to think it through. It's all those riots that were taking place when you had millions of people in the street in Turkey, and I said, I don't think this is going to happen, and it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can leave it on Winston Churchill there. You have enemies, good. That means you've stood up for something or someone sometime in your life. When you have formed strong conclusions because you've done the research, you know what's right and wrong, and you're not afraid to say it. You'll stand up for what is right. You'll stand up against what is wrong. You're going to have lots of enemies. And walk a day in my shoes, and you'll see just how many enemies a person gets. In fact, you want to be hated by everybody, speak for God. Yeah. Actually speak for YAHOWAH and see how many people hate you that will call you Satan when you are speaking for YAHOWAH. Because you're speaking for YAHOWAH, that first guy is his son, not Jesus. You're speaking for YAHOWAH, Allah's not a God. You're speaking for YAHOWAH. There is no value. In fact, rabbinic Judaism is completely counterproductive. You're speaking for God. Socialism, Marxism is a failed solution. If you're speaking for God, you're going to despise the MAGAs. So you want to have enemies? Speak for YAHOWAH. It's the fastest way to develop enemies. It's why YAHOWAH constantly says, if you're going to speak for me, you need to be Shazak. You need to be tough as nails. Mm-hmm. And he wants people that are fierce. He wants people to do this, to stand up for something. God's constantly, I want you to stand up. I want you up on your feet. I want you to stand up against the crowd. I want you to be set apart, which means I don't want you to be common. I don't want you to be religious. I don't want you to be political. Stand apart from those things. Stand opposed to those things and be tough in your stance against those things. And so this is the answer. Now, you don't have to be a chain-smoking alcoholic to get to that point, but nonetheless, I guess he didn't drown all of his neurons and Scott.
You're talking about Winston Churchill.
Yeah, Winston Churchill. Yeah. Yeah, Winston Churchill, and that may not be Winston Churchill. That may be somebody else that made that quote, but that sounds like a Winston Churchill quote. He that picture looks like a young.
It
Winston
looks like
Churchill,
Churchill, yeah.
but it could be somebody else. But yeah, Winston Churchill was quite the character. He actually had his doctor write him a note when he came to visit the United States during Prohibition that he, for medicinal purposes, he had to have a certain amount of alcohol every day, and particularly with meals, and so it was really interesting. So yeah, this may be another man, and I have misappropriated the quote, but nonetheless, it is sound, and he sure looks the part.
Yeah, it looks just like him.
Yeah, is there any way we can play our Wookiee as an outro at this point, because we missed him coming in? I love the Wook. We pay him the big bucks to do this kind of work, and so we're kind of hoping that he can earn his keep.
We pay him in rabbit ears.
Hey kid, you got it right. This is Yada's vlog on a blog. Catch it with us now.
That's our beloved Wookiee. He was up here for the show most of the time. I think you might have been able to see him wag his tail, and I think he went after Orange Man one time. He was starting to growl there at Orange Man.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I give him credit for that. He has good judgment, that kid. So I think we've done our 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's probably good enough for this program. Love doing the vlog on the vlog. What a mess the world is. There's so much to talk about. I'm sure we could do this for 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's that much to talk about.
We need to bring back the recliner chair though.
Yeah, we do.
Studio, we're going to do it for 10 hours.
Yeah, I want to be back in my recliner chair and do it. Thank you, Kevin. Have a great rest of your day. Pleasure to be able to do this with you. Thanks so much.